So, I recently helped my friend make a video on why he's going to boycott Solo, a Star Wars story, and apparently there are some people that feel a certain type of way about the film. They've actually had 2 different articles written about his particular video, garnering him extra views to help him out with that YouTube monetization. Gotta say, negative article? Thanks. So, what I'm going to do is we're actually going to break down this article, not line by line, but point by point, because I feel like this particular article has a lot to be desired from. And since I was a part of the making of this video, I feel especially entitled to rip it apart shred by shred because this man needs to be bodied. Let's start with the actual name of this article, which is Crybaby Star Wars Fan Boycotting Solo, a Star Wars Story Due to the Agenda of Star Wars. First off, as a writer, very clickbaity title. Nothing but appreciation for the clickbait. Gotta get yourself some clicks. A little lengthy though. I probably would have shortened that down to Crybaby Boycott Star Wars. You know, something like that. But, you know, nevertheless. First off, you start your article by basically stating that this video doesn't actually say anything about a conversation or a debate that's to be made about Star Wars in and of itself. Well, here's the thing, Neil. It doesn't matter. You're not looking to spark a conversation or a debate in your comments. You're looking to get as many clicks as you can garner. Sorry, but 2 can play at that game. So if you're gonna criticize him for that, I get to criticize you. Second, some of the things that you actually go into while linking his video, once again, thanks for the extra clicks, he appreciates it. You start off by stating that the start of this video, which by the way, is a joke, it's a meme, it's meant to be funny, it's not realistic. The whole point of him sauntering up and down some stairs, as well as sitting on a gate to a track and just peering off into the distance, is to show that he is pondering on the things that he thinks about Star Wars, both positive and negative. The flashes that you see of other people's videos, whose videos are actually linked in his description, where he uses the audio from, that is to show the context of why he's going into a negative idea of what Star Wars Solo, a Star Wars story, will be. Now, another thing that you failed to realize is that the song in the background is actually a meme in and of itself. The "Why are we still here? Just to suffer?" That's a line from Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain. It's actually spoken over Quiet Theme, which is a song from the game soundtrack. It is not Gabe whispering into the camera. I'm starting to really doubt your nerd credibility as well as internet culture. Now, another thing is you go into on how he says, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm boycotting Solo, a Star Wars story. And then you include a video that he is putting the audio from as a part of his quote. That's actually not what he is saying specifically in this particular moment. So, apparently you either A, didn't watch the video in full, B, don't recognize the user's voice, or C, didn't care to think about it, or it's just lazy editing. But either way, that's another fault. Maybe you should work on that. Oh, and to your point, Gabriel claims he's not sexist. He's not. The fact that you use a particular word that I'm not going to use because apparently even its use makes you a sexist. So I'm not going to join your sexist, bigoted club. I refuse to join. So I will be uttering a different word, which is I'm going to call it nihilized, because you joined the club. You claim that the recent inclusion of diversity in Star Wars is necessary. I'm sorry, did you watch the originals? When you have Princess Leia, and by the way, Princess is not a demeaning title, she's probably one of the most badass female characters in all of science fiction. She not only proves herself to be a badass in the first movie, she completely obliterates any sexist idea of what women are. She picks up a blaster, shoots a way out, and says,
Somebody has to save our skins. Into the garbage, flyboy!
I don't think you truly understand what diversity really looks like. Maybe instead of just slapping a female in the story, God forbid that it has actually anything to do with the relevancy of the story, maybe instead of just trying to go for quotas, you should honestly think about the story of Star Wars and what it's really about. The balance of light and dark, good and evil, this mystical force that surrounds everything, and only a few people, and I will put it that way, a few people have the ability to tap into. Which you also critique Gabriel's response to the fact that Rey is a Mary Sue character. And then you go to throw Anakin Skywalker and Luke Skywalker under the bus, claiming that they're also nobodies from nowhere. Well, I don't think you watched the prequels, because if you did, you would have known that Anakin Skywalker in Episode 1 is a crying little baby. He doesn't do anything. All he does is he follows the Jedi around, gets in a starship, shoots some stuff because he's a good pilot. Now, if you want to claim that he had zero training, let's go to Episode 2. About 10 years later, after he's been studying Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't think you understand what no training is. Unlike Rey, who's handed a lightsaber and apparently defeats one of the most powerful Sith in the galaxy, granted the fact that Luke Skywalker and Snoke are still in existence. So, maybe you should watch the whole no training thing. And before you throw Luke Skywalker under the bus, let's realize that his first film was no force training. The whole point of him destroying a Death Star was because he was a pilot.
Impossible, even for a computer.
It's not impossible. I used to bullseye womp rats in my T-16 back home. They're not much bigger than 2 meters.
And after pointing out this realistic fact, he used that same knowledge base to do it to the Death Star. He doubted himself when Obi-Wan Kenobi put it in his head, trust yourself, use your instincts, puts away the visor and does it himself. It has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that he's a Jedi. It has nothing to do with the fact that he's a nobody from nowhere but yet is overpowered. Third, if you think that a critique of Rey's lack of character development can be lumped into the same category as Anakin and Luke Skywalker, I don't think you understand the gravity of time and what time does to a character. Let's take, for instance, Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker we see from a little boy. From Episode 2, he's now a man. He's been training under Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's studied the Force, he's kind of put together his own style. Now he does actually start to incorporate some of Form 7 in the earlier films, and if you watch that, you might notice it, which by the way, kind of leads to the dark side. If you actually notice these things, you start to realize that this character has a lot of character development, even though he has absolutely zero game whatsoever when he tries to woo Padme by cutting up a pear and moving it to her. I'm sorry, zero game. And Luke Skywalker, I'll give you a fair criticism. He kissed his sister. It's gross. Next point. Now, there are a few claims that Gabriel makes in his video that may not necessarily have sights to sorts. Some of them include that Disney single-handedly bankrupted Star Wars. I don't believe that there was actually an article about that. Disney delayed the release of the Blu-ray and novelization of the book to cover up plot holes. Money is the only language that Disney understands. Kathleen Kennedy is promoting a... Ooh, I'm not gonna say the word. Remember, puts me in a sexist club. So, promoting her Neil agenda, and the majority fans are tired of Kennedy's so-called agenda. Now, I'll agree with you. Some of those don't necessarily have sources to cite from. Some of them are simply opinion. Now, similar to a journalist, sometimes you do need to cite sources. Other times, you do make hyperbolic statements that don't necessarily actually merit a cited source. For instance, calling Gabe a sexist. Your only source is the fact that he used a word, not necessarily that he believes the use of that word is appropriate. So, if he's a sexist for saying it, I'll repeat, so are you. You then go to critique on Gabriel's problem with the choice of actor for Han Solo. Well, newsflash, the fact that he doesn't like the actor, and the fact that you do like the actor, doesn't make any difference. That's the thing. They're personal opinions. So, he showed a clip of someone who he believed to be a better Han Solo than the Han Solo they currently have cast. And I kind of agree. However, Childish Gambino, aka Donald Glover, as Lando Calrissian, I'm all about it. And I actually kind of agree, we don't need a Han Solo film. However, I will take a Lando Calrissian film with Childish Gambino all day, every day, preach to the high heavens, hallelujah. And by the way, during the whole casting session of the video, if you didn't notice, there was a little bit of humor by putting in a sequence where he was getting so frustrated that he needed to hold and pet a cat. Here you go. Look.
Thank you.
There's a cat. Apparently humor is lost on you, because apparently you took that as such a critique and something that you needed to defend so avidly against that you included a parody of a critique in an article. What? How about this, Neil? Instead of writing horrible articles about small YouTubers' videos on why they're boycotting Star Wars, why don't you actually make an article saying why people who are boycotting Star Wars should go see it? Oh, and by the way, your critique on his money is the only thing Disney understands and I'm gonna boycott Star Wars, which, by the way, a follow-up critique here in a second. That's how capitalism works. If you don't like something, you don't support it with monetary gain. Now, to the follow-up. You say that Gabe doesn't understand the word boycott, but I don't think you understand what he was referencing. He's referencing to the theatrical release of Solo: A Star Wars Story. Hence the reason he's not going to see it in theaters, where Disney would make the majority of the money on this film. Now, after the theatrical release, and there is a DVD release, / it is available online for viewing, he said he may go see it through Redbox, which wouldn't directly support Disney, it would actually support the company that he is renting it from. Or he would go see it at a friend's house, who has already purchased it and thereby is not financially supporting Disney once more. So Neil, maybe context clues should let you know that when he says he's boycotting Star Wars, he's referring to the theatrical release. But I'm gonna put that at the fact that you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
NANI?
Maybe, instead of critiquing someone who happens to be a, in my opinion, bigger Star Wars fan than you, and understands more of the canon story, as well as the lore, maybe you should take a play from Gabe's book and think about what Star Wars actually is about. Now, by the way, as someone who loves puns more than anybody else on this planet, your use of puns was utterly terrible. And I'm really starting to think, maybe you shouldn't be a dad if you can't do dad jokes. Ouch. In conclusion, I'll put it to you this way, Neil. Your article is trash. Your opinion is trash. Everything that you have written in this garbage piece of an article should be put right back where you had it. In your fucking head. And if you don't like the fact that he called you a social justice warrior, then you might be one. I'm not gonna call you a keyboard crusader, but you seem to be typing a lot of shit online, Neil. Why don't you try to debate him live? Wouldn't that be an interesting piece? You know what? I don't even want to give you credit. Because I honestly don't think that you have the balls to actually do something like that. So, Neil, take your trash garbage piece, delete it. Sincerely, another Star Wars fan. Who, by the way, knows Star Wars better than you ever will. That has been my piece. God speed, dumb.